Welcome to the Near Memo, a weekly conversation about search, social, and commerce. What happened, why it matters, and the implications for local. Hello, everybody. This is episode 135 of the Near Memo with David, Mike, and Greg. And David's camera isn't working today, so he's just doing the voice of God thing. And so we're going to be talking about reviews, fake reviews, and Google's announcements yesterday around search personalization, notes, and their hidden gems feature. This is going to be, I think, our last episode before the U.S. Thanksgiving holiday, so we won't probably be posting one next week. But anyway, that doesn't matter. Let's jump into it. So yesterday morning, Google announced three things, a couple of which are fairly mundane and one which is more potentially significant. And kind of in reverse order, they announced Notes, which is essentially a comments feature on articles in the SERP that people will be able to post, and it'll be public so you can see what everybody has said. So it's essentially a comments feature. They've tried things like that in the past, and this is an experiment. This is only available through Google Labs if you opt in. It's not going to be rolled out, immediately. And then the second thing they announced was so-called hidden gems, which is more social content from blogs and forums and social media, kind of consistent with their larger push. I mean, I guess this has been rolling out now for a couple of months, consistent with their larger push to bring more authentic comment from human beings into the SERP. And then the third thing, which is more significant potentially, is search results personalization. Google has historically said we don't personalize. Location is a form of personalization. But beyond that, and maybe some disambiguation with immediate previous queries, they haven't really done any personalization. And now what they're going to do is they're going to re-rank results according to your interaction with the SERP. So if you have favorite sites that you keep visiting and Google sees that, they will potentially favor those sites in search results when there are multiple sites that can fulfill a query. All of this requires that you be signed in, of course, and doesn't work if you're not.
You'll only be nagged 20 times an hour if you're not.
Well, right, exactly. So, I mean, there are multiple things going on here. We can sort of look at the big picture, but let's talk about the features themselves. And David, you were most critical, let's just say, before we started recording, of these things. What's your view of all of this?
General view is whipped cream on SHIT. Greg, you've been the champion of the Baroque search results.
Exactly, Baroque.
Many months. Yes,
yeah.
Baroque. These last many months, and this strikes me as just more sort of over-the-top visual clutter is likely to pervade the results, and they're sort of chunking out in some way these hidden gems. The notes are obviously going to add clutter. The personalization is what it is. I think that's probably a long overdue feature for those who want it, but I just don't see this as like radically, given the volume of the, Google is broken. It's so much worse than it used to be. That kind of narrative, that volume seems to have really turned up in both tech press and popular press, partly as a result of the antitrust trial. And I don't see these sort of marginal feature changes really changing that narrative or actually making the experience better. So I think that all of these features are likely to aside from the personalization, the other two are likely to have very, very minimal usage, I think, and only going to be useful in very small search types, not something broadly applicable, like, for example, the hot pot experiment that they did 12 years ago or whatever, 14 years ago, right, in local would have had a much larger impact on people's actual search results for, more than one or two searches a month. So I don't know. It just strikes me as these are all very sort of googly releases in terms of, okay, we understand there's this problem out there and we need to release features to address the problem, but not actually talking to users about what would make their search experience demonstrably better, and
Well,
sort of
because they don't.
developing features in a vacuum based upon, people's sort of technical interests inside of Mountain View.
I mean, if they were to ask people what would make their search experience better, people would say fewer fewer ads,
Well,
which
right, and less visual clutter, which you've been saying for a long time, and making the ads more impactful, making the ad quality better.
yeah.
Only showing them on more, showing more ads on commercial queries and fewer ads on informational queries. Like all of those kinds of things should be very much on the table for Google right now, and would be, I think, much more effective feature releases than this crap they rolled out. So
The notes struck me immediately as a kind of a magnet for spam. That people will be spamming it with links and all kinds of things in an effort to divert traffic to their particular sites or to promote themselves or whatever. And I just think that it'll never make it out of whatever
yeah.
the
Well, and the other thing is
sandbox.
it runs literally 180 degrees to the zeitgeist of people just wanting to ask ChatGPT a question and get an answer. Like, I don't want to be browsing yet another interface for a bunch of comments from people who I have no idea if they share my general beliefs and views of the world. Like, it's just such a dumb idea. Like, it's so bizarre to me.
Well, interestingly, I think I saw a comment from Kevin Indig who, excuse me, was saying that I'm going to get this wrong because it was kind of something I just glanced at. He was saying Google now is connecting, instead of connecting people to information, sort of anonymous information. It's connecting Google. Google is now trying to connect people to one another in sort of a more social fashion, right? Your authentic, whatever influencers or authentic sources of information. I mean, the hidden gems thing is supposed to be firsthand experience. People who are expressing their own particular opinions or views or firsthand experience. Sorry, I'm having this COVID coughing fit here. The personalization, I think, is a potentially more impactful feature, but we'll have to see what it actually means in practice, right? I mean, one of the problems with Google right now is that if you do use a very general query, you've just got a page of sort of undifferentiated stuff, ads, images, and a lot of sites that, like, if you do a recent search I did was for Wi-Fi extender because I switched from Comcast to AT&T, and they gave me their gateway, which doesn't cover my entire house, and it's very complicated to get it to work with a mesh system. You don't too much information there. So I got a couple of extenders, and you do the search Wi-Fi extender, and you just get a bazillion sites, and they all purport to be experts and giving you ratings, and it's just very difficult to parse all of that stuff. And so hypothetically, the personalization, if you have certain trusted sites like Wirecutter or something, and those, that would be beneficial if that were to come up on top for such a search. But I don't know how much juice Google is going to put behind it, so we'll have to see.
I have a couple questions. One, how does this impact the rollout of SGE and the positioning and visual impact of SGE?
You're talking about personalization or everything?
Well, all of the changes they're making. I mean, is SGE going to roll out in a December timeframe, or has it rolled out? And what I mean, it seems to me that having all of these personal notes and just and SGE and the hidden
Hidden
gems
gems.
sounds like it makes this thing even muddier from a visual cluttered point of view, and SGE seems to contribute to that. So I'm just curious.
Well, I think Google is going to roll out SGE. I don't know about the time frame, if they're going to adhere to their previous, January Q1 time frame. We'll see whether they push it out or whether they make you ask for it with the generate button. You know, and in the SGE visual presentation continues to evolve. I was looking at a shopping related search for like kitchen stuff, and on a mobile device, there's just the organic results are just completely buried. I mean, you've got the ads, and you've got a very very elaborate SGE panel with photos and lots of descriptive text, and organic results are just way 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 down the page on a mobile phone.
The other question I have is whether this personalization is going to be rolled into one presumes, into their ad product, and then does that impact
They were silent on that. They were silent
anything in Europe with privacy, or California with privacy?
Well, I mean, the position in Europe that people like Johnny Ryan, who's one of the leading advocates over there, kind of Google critics and privacy advocates, is kind of taking, and his organization is taking, is that real-time bidding is completely defective from a privacy standpoint because there's just a lot of data leakage. So I would imagine that kind of argument about sort of personal data, non-consensual data being used to personalize ads would apply, and would be regarded as a privacy no, but we'll see.
I mean, why would they be personalizing if they weren't going to also be using this information in their ad product? I guess that's what I'm asking also.
Right, and I think if you don't have an opt-in, if you don't have consent, then it'll run afoul of the EU. I mean, that's what they did to Meta. They said all your behavioral targeting is a privacy violation. And so Meta's solution to that, this is a digression, but Meta's solution to that was to offer a paid product that has no ads, to sort of force people to pay them to not show ads. And then everybody else still gets the behavioral targeting, which I don't see how that works, but that's a different conversation. Any kind of last comments on the Google announcements before we move on to the exciting and wacky world of user reviews? No? All right.
Thanks for joining David, Mike, and Greg. To stay on top of the latest developments in local, subscribe to our newsletter at nearmedia.co. We'll see you next week.